What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Fonzo. Welcome to another episode of the Big Bear Online podcast. If you haven't already, kindly like and subscribe to the channel for more content. Thank you guys. It's been great. It's been a wonderful journey. But today, in today's episode, I have somebody very special, somebody very talented. I think there's no words that can describe how much I admire this guy's work ethic, admire everything he does. Because like when he goes in, it's high energy octane. But without further ado, guys, I want to introduce today my boy P Kuttah. What's up, boy? What's up? What's
good?
Nice one. Welcome to the show, fam.
Thank you for inviting me, bro.
Yeah.
Dope intro.
Thank
by
you.
the way. Dope intro, by the way.
Yeah, but thank you, man. Thank you. But how's been the day so far?
Oh, it's been cool, man. You know, the weather in Joburg has been like weird the past couple of days. I don't know what's going on. It's like rainy one day and it's overcast and then it's like sunny and it's all happy, you know. It's like almost like England weather to a certain extent.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
It's been mad gloomy the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And also with the gloom has also obviously come all the tragedies that have happened over the last 4 weeks, you know. Losing, you know, City Lights, Ricky Rick, Dimples, and a few other people in the industry as well. But it's been a tough 4 weeks. Also because of that, but man, you know, we keeping it going. You know, we soldier on. Yeah. And you know, rest in peace to my guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, R.I.P. to the guys. They were there, like I said before. They were not just talented DJs. They were profound human beings. You know.
Definitely, man. I was fortunate enough to have a bit of relationship with Ricky, and you know, Dimples not so much. I mean, obviously we were connected through DJing, you know, through events. But whenever I would hang out with Tumi, it was always love, you know. Tumi was like one of those guys, you know. He just wanted the culture to grow, you know. That's why like he started things like Pop Bottles and, you know, creating other avenues like Popcast and Popcast Radio, you know, to keep the culture going, you know what I mean? So it was always, you know, it was always love whenever I saw Dimples, and he was a fan, you know. I was a fan as well of his. You know, he really I mean, even though Switch was the first DJ to start doing his own music, but Dimples really opened up the avenue for DJs to start doing their own music. You know, his success showed DJs that shit, you know, we can actually make songs as DJs and, you know, become, you know, and start building a brand as artists, you know, as musicians. I mean, not to say that DJs aren't musicians, but from a aspect of making music, you know, making your own music. So he really opened up that door for a lot of DJs. And with Ricky, I've known Ricky since like 2008, you know, when he was still coming up. When everybody was like, yo, who is this weird, like, you know, because Ricky was very left field when he came out, you know. Even the type of sound that he went with in the beginning of his career was very like electro rap, you know what I mean? He was like playing around with a lot of that, but people knew his shit was dope. You know, at the end of the day, like you could be like, the homie's corny, you know, but his shit was dope.
His shit was dope, absolutely, because and I said it before, that mixtape that Paul had, and he brought it to the crib. He had a mixtape, like it was like 20 tracks.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It was 10 on one side, 10 on the other, if I'm not mistaken. It was really good, and I said to him, well, who's this guy? He's like, Ricky Rick. And he's like, oh, okay, up and coming. I mean, giving the mixtapes away, you know. And he was really on that humble. It was a humble beginning, but his energy was on high octane, man.
No, always, man. Like Ricky, like stayed the same.
Yeah.
Throughout his career, through like, you know, the success. Like, I mean, like I said, I met him in 2008, and he was actually a fan. I mean, he obviously we came across one another via platforms like Hype Magazine. You know, because that's how a lot of us found out about things that were going on in hip hop in the country. And I heard Ricky through the Hype Mag sessions, you know. So when I finally met him, he was like, yo, P Kuttah, yo, man, you know, dope DJ, you know what I mean? I'm a fan and shit. And I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, oh, actually, you know, I fuck with your music, bro. Like, he's like, oh, yo, that's dope. So ever since that day when we met, we always kind of like kept in contact, you know what I mean? Because like the vibe was good, like, you know what I mean? And he wanted to do some work with me as well. It never really ended up happening. But we kept that relationship. And then when I moved back from Durban back to Joburg, He was one of the first cats that actually reached out to me when I got here. And at that time, he was messing with Les. And him and Les actually were coming up with an album, if I recall. I think it's Endless Summer.
Okay.
I could be wrong. It's either Last Summer or Endless Summer.
Okay.
But it was a mixtape that Les and Ricky did together. One of the singles that came off of it was a joint called Barbershop. And that was kind of like, when I saw that, sitting with Ricky while he was making beats for that album and recording Les and him in Les's crib in his basement, well, not actually his basement, it's actually a transformed garage. He transformed the one garage into a studio.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's crazy. It's pretty dope. That working space that Les has.
Yeah.
It's like a working space because it's a studio, and then it's just like, it's a chill lounge,
Yeah,
so cats can just come and vibe. They can make music, it's like, it's a party, but it's dope. Like, the shit gets done. Like, if you look at Les's work ethic and the amount of records he's pressed out, like, over the past couple of years, that guy released an album almost like every year for the past like 6 years or some shit. So yeah, it's always, it creates a dope work environment. That's why I see there's so much content that came out.
Wow.
But like, sitting there and watching Ricky, make this project, I was just like, yo, this cat is like so talented, man. Like, and it's only a matter of time until, it's his time, his break,
Yeah.
And then he kind of disappeared from the game for a while after the Les thing didn't work out. But when he came back, that's when the Motif Records thing happened, and he signed to Motif, and then Nafukwa and Amantomazan and those, and then people really started seeing the vision. They were like, yo, Ricky's actually nice, Ricky's nice. And, he went on to become, Bazonke, who he was, And he never changed, man. He stayed the same dude throughout. It was always love. He really cared about the culture, and especially like the youth.
Yes.
I mean, if you look at his career, you look at the people that he put on, the Frank Casinos, and even though Aries was out, he gave Aries kind of almost like a new leash. When they started doing songs together as well, he kind of introduced him to like a broader audience. Okay. So he was always a down for that. He even worked with a homie of mine, SPK from the Val.
Okay.
He jumped on one of SPK's remixes. So that was Ricky, man. That was like his thing. He was, he was about the culture. He was about also investing in the youth and making sure that they had platforms, which is why I invented the Cotton Fest.
The Cotton Fest,
because he wanted to give a platform to the up-and-coming kids, not only specifically just for the established artists. And then, the bigger it got, the bigger he made it, Then all of a sudden you hear Cotton Fest has 3 floors now. And there's one floor that's just solely dedicated to up-and-coming artists. So that's crazy, That just shows you like how he was about the culture, and it's a deep loss, man. Ricky's death really triggered a lot in me as well, to the point of where I even was like, yo, I think I need to check myself in as well. I need to make sure that I'm good, because being in this industry, like especially entertainment, there's a lot of pressures that come with it, and you can get trapped in a lot of shit like easily. So you gotta stay, you gotta keep your mind in check when you're in this industry, because you look at Ricky and a lot of people are like, they don't understand why he did what he did, because he had money, he had endorsements, he had a beautiful family. But what some people don't understand is with the industry, man, industry pressures, they go beyond financial constraints and fame, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot more that goes with it.
But we'll dissect into that first. I hear you, and you're absolutely right. And there's a lot of pros and cons, a lot of underlying issues that a lot of artists might be experiencing within the
definitely,
music
man.
industry. But it's good we talk about that. But I want to hear about you. How did it all begin, man? For those that don't know you, what's your story? What inspired you to take up this career?
Well, like music. So music has always been in my family. Because my father was a jazz pianist, and then I have 3 half brothers, but one is not a musician, but 2 are. They're drummers. They're very well recognized drummers actually in the jazz scene. So music has always been there, man. And even when I was a kid, I used to play drums as well. So it kind of seemed like I was almost following the footsteps of like my brothers and stuff as well. And when I obviously you're the new generation, and there's new music that comes out because my brothers grew up in the age of rock and jazz. We grew up in the age of hip hop. You know what I mean? So when I got introduced to hip hop music, which was in I think like '88. Yeah, it must have been '88. Because the first hip hop artist that I heard was Run DMC.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, this is cool. What is this? Like, I don't know this music because I was used to jazz and rock and R&B, like New Edition, those type of groups. So I didn't really know hip hop. So I started hearing it in like around '88, '89. But it was only when it reached like '91 was when I really started paying attention. Because like the West Coast came up.
Yeah.
Now Dr. Dre, NWA. Well, NWA is kind of done by now. But Dr. Dre is now coming out, Death Row Records is getting formed, and the West is just ruling shit.
Yeah.
So I was very, very hardcore West Coast cat, like as a kid, like that was my shit. You know? And my mom didn't really like me listening to hip hop because of West Coast music, because West Coast music was like very hectic, like reality raps. They rapped about like all the shit that was happening in like Compton, the drug dealing, the drive-bys. So my mom's just hearing all this shit, and she's like, "Oh, what the fuck?"
And as well, we had and also mind you, we also not only had the movies and the music, we had the movies to go along with it. The Boys in the Hoods.
Yeah. I mean, that came out a bit later.
But
but I mean, at that time there were still things like Blood In Blood Out, which we were watching a lot of, and that's like Latino, gangster culture. But yeah, so West Coast was my thing. And then 1993 comes, and a gentleman by the name of Nasir Jones releases his debut album, Illmatic. And that shit just changed my life because that was the first. Well, I had already known about Nas actually before Illmatic came out because I had heard him on a song. Not even because everybody's first recollection of Nas is Live at the Barbecue, which I didn't hear. I heard a song called Back to the Grill Again, which was by MC Search. And it featured, if I recall correctly, it was Chub Rock. Was MC Shan on there as well? Shit, I don't even remember. I think it was MC Shan. But yeah, Posse Cut. Because the 90s, like hip hop was a lot of posse cuts. Dope song, man. And I'd known Search from Third Base, the crew that he was in.
Yeah.
That's right, Third Base, yeah. So I had already known MC Search from Third Base. I'd known about Chub Rock as well, and then obviously MC Shan because Shan is from the legendary Juice Crew. So I didn't know Nas. So Nas steps out and he starts rapping, and the first thing I noticed about him is when he steps out, he's wearing camo pants, and he's got like a one-up. No, I don't know if you remember that style, like LL Cool J. I think it's a Queens thing. I actually, I mean, not to name drop anything, but when I met Prodigy and Mobb Deep from Mobb Deep, Prodigy and Havoc from Mobb Deep, I met them. Yeah. We'll get to that.
Okay, cool.
When I met them, because they Queens niggas, and I always remember, like, I always told myself, I was like, man, the day I meet someone from Queens, I need to ask them about this.
Why they put on the left, especially on the left side,
because it seems to be a Queens thing. You know what I mean? And I always wanted to know what that was really about. But yeah, the day I met them, it's just.
I think LL made it. LL just made it
he made it a thing. Yeah, he definitely. But Nas, I'm not saying that Nas was the first to do it, but Nas is the first that I saw doing it on that video.
Sure.
So that was the first thing I picked up. I'm like, that's interesting. I've never seen someone wear pants like that, you know. And then he starts rapping, and I'm just like, okay, this is different.
Fire.
And then he had this line that caught me where he's like, serial killer who hunts by the phone book, And that was actually, I mean, aside from rappers like Ice Cube from the West Coast, who was lyrical.
Yeah.
And even Ren was also pretty lyrical.
Ren from NWA.
From NWA.
Yeah.
I'd never really heard metaphors like that. Because that shit made me think. I was like, a serial killer who hunts by the phone book. So this guy literally goes to a phone book, opens it up on wherever the hell he wants to open it, randomly just says, that's the nigga. That's who it is today. That's who it is today. So that line had me thinking. I mean, I was like, maybe, I don't know, 6, 7 or some shit. I don't know. And I'm like, yo, this is crazy. I've never heard like lyricism like this before in hip hop.
For sure.
And I made sure I like found out what this guy's name was, and I find out his name is Nas, and I'm like, all right, dope. Then like maybe a year later or a few months later, you know, our Twitter, our social media and internet was magazines, the Source
Yes, it was
magazine,
magazines. Yeah,
Word Up magazine, Rap Life magazine. That was our
I
shit.
used to love those mags, man.
Yeah, they
Yeah, I
were
used to
dope. They
love
were
those
dope. That
mags.
was our
Yeah,
shit. So that's how we found out
yeah.
what was going on in the world of hip hop. And I remember, I think it was maybe the Source magazine had an unsigned hyped edition of Nas. And in there, I see that he's releasing an album, and I'm like, holy shit, this guy's releasing an album. I gotta keep my eyes out for this album.
I
But I think along the line, I actually forgot. And then one day I'm watching, I don't know, for the Studio Mix, or it was one of these TV programs that they used to have.
probably Studio Mix.
Maybe
I
it
guess
was, I'm
it
not
used
sure.
to-
Might have actually been Zero Hour Zone, to be
Zero-
honest.
Oh yeah,
It might have been
Zero
Zero Hour
Zone.
Zone, to be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah,
For
yeah.
those who don't know what that is, Zero Hour Zone is like the first channel O
Oh,
that
channel O we had, yeah,
in South
exactly.
Africa that used to play at like 11 o'clock, I think, on a Friday night or just before midnight. It would start and they'd play music videos for about maybe an hour or two.
Yeah, at most 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's basically what it was.
Yeah.
And I think it was 0 Hour Zone, and then they played the video for The World Is Yours. And then I see
whose
this,
world is
and
this?
I'm like,
Oof, okay.
wow,
okay.
this is amazing. And the song is incredible. Like what the shit that Nas is rapping about.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh yes, he's releasing an album. I went to look and listen because at that time that's where you got most of the most imported hip hop music was through Look and Listen. Before there was a CD warehouse.
Yeah.
Even Musica.
Even Musica was tough to come by though.
No, there wasn't even a Musica at that
There wasn't
time.
a
No, Musica I think only came like mid 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, like around maybe 95 or something. Actually, I don't know, somewhere mid 90s with Musica.
Okay.
But Look and Listen was the spot.
Right.
So I went to Look and Listen. The album was there. I went back to home. I told my mom that, yo, I want this album. What do I have to do to get it? So I made a deal with her, grades, be good, all that. She gave me the album. Came through on my side of the deal. She gave me the album. That album changed a lot for me in terms of just like how I viewed hip hop culture.
I see.
Do you know what I mean?
I see.
Through those songs, it also taught me about digging, because what would happen is I'd read like these interviews about like Nas and shit, and they'd mention all the people that he's working with. So I'm like, okay, who are these people? Because obviously the album only had one guest feature, which was AZ, and the rest was just Nas by himself. So they would talk more about the producers and they would talk about the features of the rap features.
Yeah.
So now they're mentioning names like Pete Rock, DJ Premier,
yes, yeah,
Q-Tip, Large Professor, and I'm like, who are these guys? So I start trying to find out about
And
these
the
guys.
factionary
And
Tribe Called Quest.
now I find out Q-Tip belongs to a crew called Tribe Called Quest. I started listening to a Tribe Called Quest. DJ Premier belongs to a crew called Gangstar. I started listening to Gangstar, Pete Rock, and CL Smooth. And now it's opening this huge world of hip hop that I was just not privy to.
Yeah.
I'm just like, yo, there's so much music, man. And
we
this whole
don't
time I've been listening to just strictly West Coast music.
Sure.
Now I'm finding out about other shit that's more conscious, that makes more sense to me
No
as well.
TikTok, no TikTok, no social media.
Bro.
We didn't have those luxuries back
So
then.
that was like how I really started getting into hip hop. And also my cousins were also very instrumental in that, because they were older than me, so they were putting me on as well.
Yeah, that's always the case.
Yeah, they were putting me on as well. And so from starting now, this is now the beginning of my journey with hip hop. Now I'm starting to find out about the culture a bit more, and now I'm starting to see the culture in the country also. Because now I see POC, Prophets of the City. They're a hip hop crew.
Oh, yeah.
They got breakdancers, they got DJs, they got rappers.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, this shit's in the country now. Then Black Noise comes out, and it's like, now Cape Town is the mecca of hip hop.
Mecca. Now the culture is in here.
And now the culture is growing. You know what I mean? The culture is growing. It's now starting to tip over into Joburg.
Not just lyricism, like break culture.
Yo, no, dude, yeah,
Graffiti,
hip hop culture.
hip hop
culture.
just there, yeah,
just hip
it
hop
was
culture in general, because hip hop started in Cape Town. The culture.
For real.
There are like stories that people will tell you that no, there were rappers and breakdancers in Joburg at that time, and I'm not discrediting that. They probably were, because that's just how the culture is. But Cape Town was the one that gave it a face, was the one that put it in the masses' faces and on television. They were the ones that did that, and they actually birthed hip hop in this country. Cape Town is the birthplace of hip hop.
Yeah.
Regardless of how you want to put it.
That's for real true.
Regardless of how you want to put it, like that's what it is. So now it starts tipping into Joburg, and now we start seeing hip hop, people getting involved in the culture. Now there's breakdancers here, there's graffiti artists here, And then the next thing you know, there's rappers. So what happens? What's the next step? You now have to create a space for these people to come.
Absolutely.
So there's a space that got created, and it was called Rippingtons, but most of everybody else will know it as Lee Club. For the early 2000s, they will know it as Metropolis.
Okay.
But Lee Club is what it was.
Lee Club was where it was
most
at.
famously known for. That was its most famous period. So I started attending these sessions. It was every Saturday. It was a matinee from 12 till 6.
Yeah.
And it was just hip hop culture. They would have a workshop for like the first hour, I think. So they teach the elements. They'll teach DJing. They teach like writing skills,
blah blah blah.
Breakdancing, graffiti. So that's where we went, and a lot of like hip hop's alumni, like the first. I would say, actually, the first group that came out and made hip hop popular in Johannesburg were from Lee Club. Guys like Amo, Salvin, Wicked, Mischief,
R.I.P.
Snaz, even Squatter Camp. Before they even became Squatter Camp, I could be wrong in this. And Sleeker, if you do see this, please forgive me. But if I recall, they used to be known as Exorcism. Okay. There was only 4 of them that were in the crew. Which I think was Slick, who used to go by Phantom Slick. I think it was Flabber as well. It was Flabbergast. And then Lebu Sugar Smacks.
Okay,
but Smacks used to go by the name Emination back then. And I'm not sure if Info was the 4th guy, or maybe there wasn't even 4 of them. I can't remember. Excuse me, I can't remember that clearly. But they used to go by Squatter Camp used to be known as Exorcism. And there was just like a host of talent that came out of that was coming out of Lee Club, and it was really starting to brew like properly, to the point of where even people in overseas were starting to catch wind of what was going on. Specs also came from Lee Club, and so did Pro Kid. So now the culture's growing in Joburg, I'm now a rapper. I'm writing rhymes. I'm a part of a crew.
Nice.
You know what I mean? This is now me getting into hip hop culture because I was never good with like drawing and shit. So I knew that graffiti wasn't gonna be my thing.
Yeah.
I tried breakdancing, but I was like, nah. Like this whole thing of spinning on your shoulders and shit, because that shit you gotta your body's got a condition for it. You know what I mean? Because you're using parts of like your body that you don't usually use. So your body has to get used to it, and that was my thing. I just didn't want to have to go through the aching body shit.
But you've always been I've noticed, man. You've always been very good with remembering lyrics. I mean, no doubt. We've gone to a party together, and you've played. I think there was a set you did. I remember. I think it was like just after COVID or before, or just at the beginning stages of COVID, and it was an event with the Jay-Z versus. You did a Jay-Z session. Do you remember that one? It was in. You did a whole Jay-Z set.
Oh, wait, are you talking about...
which one was that one?
At the rooftop.
The rooftop.
Yeah. That was the Jay-Z... I think it was Jay-Z versus Kanye.
Versus Kanye, yes. It was the Jay-Z versus Kanye
it was
set.
The throne thing. Yes, it was just Kanye and Jay-Z music.
And I was like, no, not many people can listen to a track and understand or listen to lyrics word for word and understand till this day. I mean, look, I was playing some Jadakiss. I'm a huge Jadakiss man. I love Jadakiss for days.
Right.
Give me any track, bro. give me any track, I'll kill it. You know what I mean? I love that's how much I understand Jada. Way back from 2002, Kiss the Game Goodbye. I'll hit the lyrics word for word. But here's the thing: I've always noticed that you've always understood and you've always remembered certain tracks. But you've also got the understanding for hooking up a lyric. So maybe dissecting it and writing your own, makes entirely much sense. I would actually pass you for a rapper before I would a DJ if I didn't know you.
Well, that's what a lot of people actually when they see me, they're like, "Oh, you rap?" I'm like, "No, I'm a DJ." They're like, okay, so you do something. You are involved.
You are
in
in somewhere.
Yeah, you're somewhere. You're related. Because I always get that shit. Like it was so funny when Keenan, when AKA came out.
Yeah.
Then every colored guy that was a hip hop dude was now AKA,
Yeah.
You'd be walking down the street and someone would scream, "Hey, AKA!" You know what I mean? And you're just like, really, bro? And then the funny thing that happened was when Youngster blew up, Then it became Youngster.
Yeah.
Like people would come up to me, but not on a joking tip. They really think I was Youngster. They come up to me like, dude, are you Youngster CPT? And I'm like, nah.
No.
They're like, oh, sorry, you look like Youngster CPT. I'm like, yeah, I know, I get it a lot. And Youngster, my homie, you know, I've like Youngster's another nigga that I came across before he's come up.
Oh, for
you
sure.
know what I mean?
For sure.
When he was still fucking making like, dude made like 20 mixtapes in 1 year.
Dang.
You know what I mean? Like
Dang.
that's how crazy he was. You know.
Right.
So you know, like meeting him and also like building a friendship because I even used to DJ for Youngster when he'd come to Joburg.
Okay.
So I built a really dope relationship with him, and I remember always telling him like, my nigga, watch when you blow up how niggas are gonna start saying that I look like you.
Now look at it now.
And then I told him, I was like, yo, I remember I was at the airport and this kid walked up to me, a white kid walked up to me. And he was like, yo, you Youngster CPT? And I'm like, nah, I'm not. He's like, oh, okay. I'm like, yeah, but that's my homie. And he's like, oh, do you know him? I'm like, yeah, I know him. It's my boy. He's like, oh, no, you must just tell him that I think he's great. It's a white kid. That's You know, so I phone Youngster. I'm like, my nigga, you're not going to believe this. Like, I had a white kid just come up to me and tell me that, like, yo, he loves your music and shit because he thought I was you. Youngster's response is like, yeah, I can tell you one thing, Kuttah, means you're a really good-looking motherfucker.
Yeah, man, it's insane. It's insane.
So okay. I have my experience, you know, with writing because when I started in hip hop, I was a rapper, and you know, jumping on the open mic at Lee Club also kind of like built the confidence for me to want to pursue like trying to become a rapper.
Okay.
You know, and it was great, man. But then. Like now, how everybody wants to be a DJ. Back in the day, everyone wanted to be a rapper.
Yeah.
So even that time, everybody wanted to be a rapper.
True.
You know.
True.
So it was. So the culture is now growing, and there's a lot of like rappers emerging out of Joburg, you know, in surrounding areas of Johannesburg and Gauteng, and they're finding out about Lee Club because Lee Club's like the spot, you know, for hip hop. If you want, you know, the DJs were like the best DJs in Gauteng. That was DJ Blaze and Bionic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and my homie Mr. Bigger. Shout out to Martin. Joe and Vinny also used to come through and play the dance hall. They used to kill it with the dance hall. Yeah. Like when their set came on, you knew it was the honeys.
Yeah.
Like it was for the honeys.
It was for the honeys.
Like
only.
niggas were just like, yeah, bring them on, you know, bring them on.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
So you know, Lee Club was the spot, and now a lot of rappers start coming out, and now it's becoming a bit more hectic to get on the open mic, you know, because.
And I was about to say, and that was follow up to my next question, is that taking into account, and from the stories that you're sharing here, is that there used to be a camaraderie among the guys, because it seems you knowing the gentlemen that were in the game back then, up and comings, they were up and comings too.
Yeah.
Now, there was not only just, okay, I'm trying to be an up and coming, but there was like a camaraderie among the guys. They understood the game. They understood what it was about. Yeah, whatever. People in SA will tell you stories. Oh, you're trying to be American. No, we're not trying to be anything. We're trying to get it's a culture which is spread around the world. Go to Japan. Go to any country in the African continent. The same culture. Abum everywhere, whether you like it or not.
That's what I was. I was called nice all the time.
And think people look, they'll like kind of so bash you. Yeah, it's fine. I'm a rapper. You know what I mean? I do this.
Well, I mean, I was.
You were, you know what I mean?
I was.
And going into that now and going into the evolution of how it's going, is that still existent? But you like, based on what you just said now, that it's very hard to be on an open mic. Does that mean that it goes along with the lack of camaraderie or trust everyone has among each other?
No, back then, not really. I wouldn't think. Maybe today it might be that way, but and I mean, but even today, there's not a lot of like open mic sessions. You don't find a lot of open mic sessions anymore.
No.
I know there's a few in Soweto and stuff, but you hardly see that shit in the city. You know, I mean, with Cool Out, you know, when we used to do Cooling in the City, we used to have an open mic all the time because we wanted to keep that culture going.
Yeah, you want to keep
to
it
the
going,
point of
man.
where we even made a championship belt for the open mic.
Dang.
You know, you got a belt and shit. Like you couldn't take it home, but you could take pictures with it and shit.
For
but
sure.
you were the champ.
You were the champ.
You know, and you'd come back and defend your shit. And if you defended it for a month straight, then we gave you a set as an opener, as an open artist. You know, on the stage.
Okay.
So. Back then, it wasn't really. I don't think it was like that. Like the reason why it became difficult was because of the influx of like how many different rappers were coming and where they were coming from. Because now we start finding out because before it was inner city and it was Soweto. Those were the spots that were known for, and maybe Alex to a certain extent. Although, yes, Alex, yes, definitely Alex. So Alex, Soweto, and in the inner city were the spots that were known to breed hip hop rap. A lot of hip hop rappers. Why am I saying hip hop rap? But a lot of rappers.
Okay.
And then you started finding out that there were cats in Tembisa that were doing shit. They even had their own thing going down as well.
Right.
And now you start hearing rappers from Tembisa and you're like, oh shit, okay, this thing is growing. And now they're starting to come to Lee Club. So it was just an influx of a lot of rappers that were coming through. Yeah. And it was making it a bit more difficult to get on open mic because there were so many that wanted to be on it. And then another thing that also, which actually, no, you know what? You are correct to a certain extent now that I think about it. Because one of the things that also drove me away from wanting to be a rapper was when you do get on the open mic, there was always this thing of that sometimes when a dude is finished rapping, so you're standing right next to him, and he finished rapping, he don't give you the mic. He look for his boy and give his boy the mic next. I think that happened to me like maybe 2 or 3 times when I was on the open mic, and I was just like,
I noticed that, yeah.
Nah, like that's whack, you know what I mean? So now I gotta be fighting niggas for the mic now. And I was just like, nah, like I'm not trying to go to. I want people to hear the shit that I'm rapping about, and I had fans. Like true to God, like Pro Kid was one of my fans.
Okay.
Yeah, like, but I'm not talking about Pro Kid as y'all know him. Like Linda, when we knew him back in the day.
Yeah.
Like he was a fan of the shit that I used to write. Like he knew some of my lyrics. I used to be like, damn, this cat knows my shit. Like,
have you got any stuff that you wanted to release? Or do you still have stuff from back then that you recorded maybe?
Yeah, I do. Because I was a part of this crew called Urban Noise.
Okay. And
Urban Noise would later become a Basement Platform. I don't know if you know of BMP.
No.
Like underground hip hop group from Joburg, but they were very well respected. Lots of dope lyricists. It was like Wu-Tang Clan basically. Because there was about 6 or 7 of us in that crew.
Going in hard.
So I have recordings from that album when we record all that mixtape that we did.
Okay.
But as a solo rapper, no, I never recorded my own song. It was just features. The last feature that I did actually was in 2014, I think.
Oh.
Yeah, 2014 was the last feature that I did. It was only because my one homie from Durban, Sakile the Poet, STP.
Okay.
Me and him had this. I wouldn't even say it was a song, man. Like it was just the beat that we got from a homie of ours. It was such a dope beat, and we came up with this idea. Or he came up with this idea called Bonasan, which is what the hook was about. And then he knew I rap, so he was like, "Yo, don't you want to like potentially jump on the song with me?" So I'm like, I love the beat already, so I'm like, okay, let me see what I can do, you know. So I write my verse, I spit the verse to him, and he's like, yo, that's it, like this is a song. But we never really got around to recording the song. But we would perform it though, and people used to love it. Like I even remember JR actually once came up to us, and he was like, yo, that joint is hard. He's like, yeah, y'all got to release that track.
Yeah.
But we actually would end up like, almost 3 years or 4 years later recording the remix for it.
Okay.
Because he did release it, but he released it on his own.
Okay.
But then when he made the remix, he was like, no, I've got to bring Kuttah, because Kuttah had a verse for the original, and I've got to get him on the remix. So that was my last feature. But but I do have some recorded stuff. So anyway, So now the whole getting on the mic thing becomes a problem, and I'm just not feeling it anymore. I'm just like, you know what, like it's actually killing my vibe from wanting to just write.
Yeah.
And then I always had a knack, which is one of the reasons why I knew so many lyrics. I always had a knack for just sitting at home and listening to hip hop.
Yeah.
And kind of like having my own disco in my room.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So I'm playing like the songs that I like, and and I'm just vibing out to my own shit.
Yeah.
So I always had this thing for wanting to play music. And at Lee Club there were only those DJs. So I remember Blaze is like, yo, we're actually gonna start teaching DJ lessons if you guys want to learn. And I was like, yo, I wanna try it out, kind of see how it goes. So I start and shit, like not really learning much, because obviously it was just an hour and it's like a whole lot of kids that also have to kind of like,
get the opportunity
like
as
the
well.
theory was
Yeah.
being taught, but the practical wasn't really like enough for us to like really learn a lot. We were just learning about the mixer, and like Blaze had these weird like things that he would make us do, which I'm just like, when I think about it now, I'm like, I don't understand why this nigga made us do this. Like
I do not know why.
he would literally like, I mean, okay, I do to a certain extent. Maybe I understand why he was trying to teach us this, but it was something so simple that we learned like so quickly. But he made us do it for like almost 2 weeks, and that was picking up the needle from the off the record without making a sound. No, not even that. Not even scratching the record. Just because sometimes if you pick a needle up, you can actually hear the static leave. It makes like that kind of sound.
Is that like a blow up, like a little pop noise?
Yeah, it's like a pop noise.
I've noticed that. Yeah.
It'll make that. So he's the whole thing was like trying to teach us how to pick the needle up so we don't make that noise.
Etiquette, eh?
Yeah, well, I mean, but it was still like, dude, most of the time you'd hear it. Even when he did it, I'm like, nigga, you're teaching us this shit, but you still fucking,
but you're still doing it.
Like, come on,
What's
bro.
wrong with you?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
it was that shit. But so I took an interest, but it hadn't really struck me yet. And the day when I realized, okay, cool, I actually want to try this DJing thing out. So through my, going to these League Club sessions, and shout out to my sister, because this was the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
One day, my sister gets dropped off at our crib by Blaze. So I'm like, yo, you know Blaze? She's like, yeah, I've known Blaze for like years. Blaze used to come there to the shop that I used to work at in Carlton. So Blaze recognized me. He's like, oh, hey, I know this homie from League Club. He's like, oh, Tammy's his sister. I'm like, yeah. So now he's connected the dots, and he's like, okay, so you stay here, I stay up the road. I'm like, wait, what? You stay up the road? He's like, yeah, like literally around the corner. So he's like, nah, yo, I'll see you soon. I think like the very next week he invited me and my sister to his spot. So now, bro, I get into this dude's crib. It's just music everywhere. This guy got records for days. Got his set up there, turntables and shit, and I'm just like, yo,
what's poppin'?
This is dope.
Yeah,
this is dope. So we just play music, man, and like Blaze was like the Wu-Tang guy. Like he just loved Wu-Tang. He had everything Wu-Tang. So he's like, and I was a big fan at that time. So he starts playing Wu records, and I'm like rapping along to the records. So he's like,
but that was a substandard back in the day, growing up in hip hop culture. Yeah. You at least gotta have one Wu-Tang Clan poster in your room.
Nah, true that.
Like
true
for
that.
real.
Very, very true.
I mean, us poor, bro. We one standard, bro. You're young, you share a bedroom. Boom, Wu-Tang right there. Respect the game. Whether you like it or not, but yeah.
Yeah, no. So so he starts playing these records. I'm rapping along to the records, and like he's like, okay, yo, like this, this kid is into this shit.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yo, Blaze, like, can I play some music? Because I mean, I've been doing the lessons with you, so like, yo, can I play some shit? So he's like, okay, cool, but like he's like watching me, like, like got his eye on everything that I'm doing. And I'm just playing music. I'm not even mixing anything. I'm just putting shit on. I'm playing. I'm looking through his, the records to see what song can I play next that I like from what he has. And so he's watching all of this, and he's like, oh, okay, so this kid has a knack for music, So he kind of takes me under his wing, and he's like, yo, come through, before we go to League Club.
Yeah.
Help me out, carry records, shit like that, and then I'll actually take you on as an understudy type thing. So I was like, oh, okay, dope. So now I kind of like become Blaze's errand boy type thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's paying dues, So through that, I then get closer to DJ Bionic, Bradley Williams.
All right.
And get closer to him. Me and him also have a connection now. So he's like, yo, I've got a show. Well, actually, no. I knew that he had a show. Not that I didn't know. But he used to have a show on Voice of Soweto VOS with another homie named Zach. Some of y'all might even know him. He used to be on Metro FM, I think, if I recall correctly. They had a show. It was called The Reality Check. They had that, and that show. So again, people might come at me for saying this, but I think it's true. YFM's Rap Activity Jam got its idea from their show.
Okay.
That's what I feel.
Fair enough.
Bradley might say the same thing. But yeah, I think they were the first to do it. So Yeah, so that show was like, it was infamously known, like, yo, that's where the rappers go. You know what I mean? That's where I met Snaz, that's where I met Emphatic Tabs, that's where I met Robo. I met all these guys
All
there.
those guys there.
Also at Lee Club, but I got closer to them there.
Okay.
So we went on the show as well and rapped and shit. Bradley's like, oh, I didn't know this nigga rap. And he's like, oh, you rap? Okay, cool, So we rap on the show. I rap with my crew. We used to call ourselves R&R, raw news readers. So we rap on the show, So he's like, oh, okay, I thought you were like a DJ and shit, I was like, yeah, I mean, I get into DJ. I want to get into DJing and stuff. So he's like, yo, actually, you know what? We need like a young perspective on the show.
Okay.
He's like, you know a lot. Like, I see you know a lot about, hip hop, about rap. Why don't you come on the show as like almost like a co-host? We'll give you like a segment. I was like, oh shit, okay, cool. So now I'm on radio with Bionic. And then Zach left, and then Hip Hop Scholar came in, Tabiso came in. And then that became also, then now was the new show, because I also kind of came in the same time that Tabiso came in.
Yeah.
So now it's a whole new perspective. There's new co-hosts. Now I'm also learning a lot more while I'm chilling with these guys, not only in terms of just like music, but just in terms of like radio and stuff and how jingles and all that works, And then one day, Bradley hits me up, or he comes up to me because we didn't have phones that time. He comes up to me, I think at Lee, and he was like, yo, I'm not going to be able to make it this Saturday, but I'm going to need you to come to my crib, get records from me so you can play music. So I'm like, oh shit. So I'm like, is Tabiso going to be there? He's like, yeah, Tabiso's going to be there. So it's going to be you, Tabiso, and then we had another homie named Sissel. It was actually my right-hand man.
Right.
While I was learning to DJ, he was also learning to DJ. When I was learning to rap, he was also learning to rap.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, cool. So I get the records from him. We go to the show. Tabiso don't show up. I don't know why.
Snap.
But he don't show up. So now it's just me and Sissel. So we ran the show ourselves. And the call-ins that we were getting from people that were listening were like, yo, the music's dope. You guys are doing a great job. We like, damn, because we were like, we were so nervous that people weren't gonna like the show because it wasn't Bradley, and neither was Tabiso.
Because people are specific to are used to a specific guy.
Yeah. So now it's the co-hosts that are running the show. They're like, what the fuck, But we did mention that they weren't in, and they'll be back next week. So we were taking over the show. We actually didn't talk much, to be honest. We played more music.
You just played more music
than anything.
It's the best thing,
And I actually remember, I think one of the homies that was sitting there with us was like, yo, your niggas need to talk. You're not talking. Like, you're just playing music. We're like, yo, what the fuck are we going to talk about, bro? You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, so we just played music. And the the response from it was just like, yo, people loved it. They just loved the music that we were playing. And I was like, yo, shit. So if people like the stuff that I'm picking out to play, maybe I should try this DJing thing out, and then started really like hounding Blaze more, just to like get on the decks more often.
Yeah.
And then he'd show me things, but it wasn't necessarily, it was more like technical stuff that he was showing me.
Okay.
It was Bionic that showed me how to mix. Bradley taught me how to actually count a beat. And the thing is, so counting a beat is very similar to counting a beat when you drum. It's like almost the same process, actually exactly the same process.
Okay.
The kick and the snare is like your lead, and you count it in 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3, 4.
Yeah.
That's your count. That's as they call a bar. So he shows me that, and I'm like, oh, okay. I already know how to count a beat. So I got the shit in like 3 hours, max. I learned how to mix. It was done. It was like done. Even Bradley was like, "Oh, that's quick." But I'm like,
not to say that you mastered the whole thing, but you understood the concept.
Yeah, I understood the concept in about 3 hours. Yeah, in about 3 hours, it was quick.
Wow,
Because of my drumming background.
Yeah, of
counting
course,
the beats.
Of course.
Like that's like people will listen to that and they'll be like, "Nah, that's bullshit." I'm like, "No, for real, bro. I picked that shit up quick because of that." Because I knew how to count the beats and I knew how the steps actually work. I was like, "Oh, okay." So when I'm pushing this record back and forth on the kick, which is right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
and then I just got to count it and make sure that when I release this on this kick, it's released with this kick as well. It's an easy process. And if you know how to count a beat, the shit is simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I got it in 3 hours. I was like, the 2 songs that Bradley gave me to mix, he then started giving me records after that. Like, okay, mix this. Mix this. The only thing that actually that I had to, that was a bit difficult at that time, which I obviously started learning as I went, was the whole pitch control and the learning how to actually move the spinning plates when either the record was too fast or too slow.
Yeah.
Because that shit, it's like it's a touch.
It's a touch.
You've gotta get it right, because then you might just miss the whole mix
the
up.
whole sequence.
You might just miss the whole mix up. So yeah, so like those were the things that I was still struggling, but the concept of mixing and counting a beat, I had it from in about 3 hours it was done. So now I'm learning how to mix music. So now it's like, oh, okay. I start showing progress. Blaze and Bionic see that. So what do? They're like, okay, Kyla, check this out. We'll give you the first hour at Lee Club, but you're not going to play songs. You're going to play instrumentals only.
Oh, snap.
That's all you're going to do. I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. I mean, I want to play songs, but
yeah, I mean,
but I mean, instrumentals is cool. So yeah, they let me use the records, and they'll be like, yo, play these instrumentals and stuff. And yeah, that's how I started. So I would play instrumentals for like the first hour or so. But I don't even know if it was an hour. It might have even been half an hour or something. But I'll play that set. And that was what started teaching me how to, like, now I'm getting better with the pitch control and all the antics that go with it.
For sure.
But now I want to really get into like turntablism. I want to get into scratching and actually learning the craft, because now I'm really interested, because now that I've got the mixing thing intact, I want to add the skills to go with it. So I'm like, okay, cool, how do I do this? But now, back in the day, it wasn't easy being a DJ. It was actually expensive. It's still expensive till this day.
Yeah.
But that time it was like, yo, you didn't hear of 13, 14, 15-year-old DJs. You know what I mean? Like,
no, you do
all these people were like working people that had jobs that could afford this equipment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was hard. So I didn't have decks until I think until I was 20 or something.
Oh,
snap. It was the first time I got decks.
How much was your first set of decks?
I think about 5K. I bought them secondhand. Yeah, they were like Gemini. They were direct drive,
Right.
but they were Gemini turntables. They were still good. They lasted me a good couple of years.
I mean, 5K 20 years ago was a lot of dough.
Yes, it was.
Yeah,
It was,
so I mean, you can understand.
But that time I was also working, so there we go. There we
At
go.
20, you're making.
But yeah, so now I want to learn these skills, but I can't afford the equipment. So it's like, okay, how do I beat the process? And then I think it was in the year 2000. So my father, who was a jazz pianist, used to play piano in the Crystal Court in Palace Hotel in Sun City. So he was contracted. He played there for like almost a decade.
Oh, wow.
And we end up moving there to Sun City, because when my father was there for the first 2 or 3 years, he didn't have space for us to be there, So we stayed. I mean, my father was always on the road, but for that time, that was actually the closest he was to us. But we couldn't even stay with him, So we had to wait for them to give him a bigger place, and then they eventually gave him a bigger place, and then we moved to Sun City. So I stayed in Sun City for about 4 years or something like that. Okay. Schooling in Rustenburg and shit, like having to wake up like 4 o'clock in the morning to catch a bus just so you can go to school.
Sure.
So we move out there, and now I'm kind of losing contact with the culture.
Yes,
especially with DJing, because there's nothing out there.
There's nothing in Rustenburg.
There's nothing out there.
Yeah.
So now I'm just like, damn, and this is what, 2000, early 2000? Yeah, early 2000. So
okay.
So by early 2000, I moved back to Sun City, because I was there for a few of my primary school years, and then I moved back to Joburg for high school. And this is when I started getting involved in hip hop. And then at a certain point, my mom was just like, no, you need to move back, back to Sun City, because I was literally in Joburg on my own. I stayed with my cousin at one stage, and then I moved out and stayed with my sister, and then my sister left, and then I was like on my own for a year. I stayed on my own for a year. I was still in high school.
Wow. Okay.
I was staying on my own for a year. My spot became the party spot, because people always come to my crib because they knew there was no parents there.
Yeah.
So when I leave to go back to Sun City, now I'm far away from anything, you know, like there's no hip hop in per se in the Northwest. You know, there are cats, but it's not the thing there. There,
Yeah.
Kwaito is the thing. Kwaito in house.
Yeah.
That's the thing there.
Yeah.
So now it's just like, damn, like what am I gonna do? And then thank God, a friend of mine from Sun City, her father opens a club there
Okay.
called Casa Nostra, and they get all the equipment, turntables, everything. It's in there. My name's Angela, so I go up to Angela. I'm like, yo, how do I, get down? Like, how can I actually be a DJ? And she's like, you DJ? I'm like, yeah, a DJ. She's like, okay, well, they're having trials for DJs coming up. You should jump on. She's like, do you have your own music? I'm like, that I actually don't really have. I have my CDs and shit, but I don't really have like records, So she's like, well, you're gonna, just try to do what you can. So now, so now I'm like, oh damn. Now I have to play CDs. I've never really played. I've never DJed with CDJs. And that time the CDJs were nothing like what they were now. They're nothing like what they are now.
Yeah.
Like it was a very, very, very different process that time. It still had the pitch control and shit, but it wasn't as accurate.
It's a very delicate process.
Very delicate process. So I had to literally like learn how to use these CDJs as quick as possible.
Yes.
So Angela would actually give me time. She'd be like, okay, cool, just. Before they would open up and, the club would actually like get going, she'd let me come in so I could see DJs and just learn, okay, how does this work? How does this work? And then eventually I kind of like figured it out. And then I went for the trials and then I became one of the resident DJs there as well. And that was the process that now gave me the access to now start practicing because I had access to turntables now. So now I start buying records. Every time I go to Joburg, I'm buying shit. I'm coming back. Buying scratch records, normal records, like, and then just practicing every day. I was like, yo, I'm here, I'm practicing. I want to like master this stuff as best as I can.
Yes.
And then eventually my father's contract ended, and he ended up relocating to Durban, and I relocated with him as well. And got to Durban, wanted to actually go into sound engineering there, through a friend of my father. Bruno Redoff, he like owned a few studios around Durban.
Okay.
So he took me on his wing, like told me this whole thing about like, okay, I'll teach you a basic sound engineering course, you'll get a certificate, and then you can get work. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, this nigga gonna offer me a job in one of your studios when I'm done.
Yeah.
So I get done with the course, I get my certificate, and it's like, yeah, there you go.
Be on your way.
Be on your way. I'm like, wait, what do you mean? Like, I ain't gonna get a job. It's like, no, you ain't getting a job in my studios, dude. You need to like, you need to get experience.
Yeah, you get on.
I'm like, damn, I can't get experience here. Like, y'all niggas can't teach me and shit. He's like, nah, you need to go out there and get your own experience. I'm like, damn, and then I find out, that certificate don't mean shit, actually.
Oh snap.
So now it's like, now I'm in this new city. I've wasted like a year of just. Not really wasted. I mean, it taught me a lot, but like, it's just like, damn, I had this whole plan of, I thought I was going to start working in a studio to become like a producer like Dr. Dre.
Or Puff Daddy.
Some type of shit.
Yeah,
that was my whole thing. And then it was like, that fell off. So then it was like, okay, what's next? Then I was like, yo, you know what? I've never really searched the hip hop culture in Durban as much. I was like, I actually need to start going out and meeting people.
And
so
explore.
I do that.
Yeah.
And by chance, I meet a homie named Abiku. He was from Pietermaritzburg. Dope rapper, dope producer as well. Ended up becoming a dope producer. He wasn't a producer at that time.
Yeah.
So I meet him. I don't even remember how we met, but we just started speaking about hip hop, and he was like, yo, you must come to this thing that happens on a Friday at this place that was like a skater shop, but they also sold records at the spot.
Okay.
And it was run by this white boy named Nick.
Okay.
And he had like a little room in the shop that had turntables, and people could just sit in there and just like chill, listen to music, play. And a lot of ciphers would happen in that room as well, like a lot of rappers. Okay. So I walk in there. He invites me, I go with him, and the first person I walk into is this homie named Raheem Kemet, as he's known today. Very, very dope rap artist, very dope lyricist. And he was actually, as much as a Biku put me on to the people, Raheem was my key into the right avenues within the culture of hip-hop in Durban.
Okay.
So when I met him, I started meeting the right people. I started meeting the guys that were actually doing the hip-hop sessions in Durban.
Right.
And there was one session that was the most prominent, and was called Ngaba Hip Hop Sessions. It used to happen at Bat Center every Thursday.
All right.
That spot was, for me, was like where basically Paper Cut, which I used to go by.
Yeah, I remember you were named. Yeah, I knew you as Paper Cut when I first.
Yeah, Paper Cut. That's where Paper Cut was born.
Okay.
That was where I made my leap into now becoming a DJ, and then people are recognizing me now.
Okay.
You know, because unlike the other DJs who weren't, I'm not saying that they were dope, but they didn't have the skill set that I had.
Okay.
You know, there were turntablists as well in Durban. There were a few good ones. Shout out to my homie DJ Cause. He was one of the dopest turntablists in the country, which people don't know about. Only the real ones do. Like, so there was like him. There was DJ Cause. He was an excellent turntablist. But there was no DJ that could bring the two and mesh them together. There was no DJ that was a turntablist and a party DJ. You were either just a party DJ or you were a turntablist. Yeah. But nobody was a party DJ turntablist, not in Durban. So, well, to the main market, I know that there were other colored and Indian DJs that were doing that in there, because like Durban's got a very segregated market. Like the Indians party with the Indians, the colors party with the colors, whites party with whites. Blacks, blacks. Like few cosmopolitan like joints in Durban. Okay. But it's mostly just like predominantly one group, one ethnic group that party together. So in the main market, there wasn't anybody. Okay. You know, so everyone was kind of just a party DJ. So what they, a party DJ is like either press play, or if you were on records, it was just basic.
Yeah, then you go down.
But there was no like real creative process of like or skill behind it. So I came with that. Okay. And when I came with that, it was like people were like, "Holy shit! Okay, Durban has a DJ." Like I started becoming like the main guy, the main hip hop DJ in Durban.
That's insane. And take it into the whole, journey that you've been through, and seeing the changes that the changes that you've experienced from starting on a basic level to meeting people. And this is something that you've taken from your story, is really showing, speaking a lot, is that you, without these networking keys, you wouldn't have gotten to where you are today.
But that's how the game is. It's not only just how talented you are, but you've got to have connections as well to really make it. You've got to know where the right people are.
Absolutely. And now, what I ask you is that, have you noticed the evolution of hip hop compared to them? Because remember, a lot of people, man. I was born in the 80s, grew up in the 90s. Same with you. Yeah. Born in the 80s, grew up in the 90s, where a lot of the basic, or not even basic, the hip hop culture was given to us at its basic form. Yeah. Half the time we'd listen to, a lot of guys will tell you the only thing they know about hip hop and rap is Biggie and Tupac, or East Coast, West Coast beef. You get what I'm saying? True. However, now we're going into a new transition. Do you think there's some type of evolution, whether it be positive or negative, in the hip hop industry, or in the maybe not even as a DJ, but just in hip hop in general?
In hip hop culture, yes, definitely. Well, there's definitely evolution. Music evolves, culture evolves. Like,
but what about the elements? Like, and I'm saying elements, maybe about the equipment. Of course, the social media, the exposure, the people, how many people know. Because remember, our hip hop community is very small. Not very small, but it's not big to talk. It's not a huge thing. You'll sit with you'll sit with what? 2 out of 5 guys that will sit with you and talk hip hop. Yeah. Hope another group will talk to you. Talk general hip hop. But in terms of the evolution side, do you think that our evolution has grown, or evolution has become stagnant, or are we just going through a yo-yo effect in a way?
I would say maybe yo-yo effect. Okay. Yeah, because it evolves, and it does become stagnant, and it evolves again. That's just how, even hip hop in the States is, exactly the same. If you look at it, it's evolved, and then it was, how can I say it? Like the 80s was the birth, and everything was like fun and, kind of jiggy and stuff. And then came the conscious movement, which was just through the 90s, and it was like backpackers, and then the 2000s is when hip hop blew up globally. You know what I mean?
It became a party.
Yeah, like Eminem, the Eminems and the Nellies started selling like crazy records, like crazy amount of records. Yeah. and that was it evolved, and then it was stagnant throughout the 2000s. The 50 Cents came out, and all those guys came.
Yeah.
And it was only when it reached like the 2010s, 2011s when it evolved, and then trap came in.
Yes.
Trap came in, and then it's just the trap movement, and now the mumble rappers are here. So it evolves, and obviously they all have their pros and cons. You know what I mean? Each one of them has their pros and cons. My thing is, I've learned to just accept it for what it is.
Of course.
I mean, you can always, we always complain about it, especially as elder statesmen. We always complain about how, how the rappers these days are just not as dope as the rappers from like the 90s and the 2000s. But that's what hip hop has become. That's what it has evolved to, and I've learned to just be like, well, that's what it is now.
Yeah. To what extent are you going to still listen to the same? It's like taking NWA music. We all appreciate a group like NWA. We all appreciate the Biggies and Tupacs. But, taking into account that we are going through these changes, what's the use of complaining about it? Rather adapt and listen. Just because you don't...
you don't even really need to listen, to be honest. Like,
you don't need to. Yeah, you've got a choice. Yeah,
to be honest, I mean, I can't really tell you, like, what's the latest, like, trap shit, because I'm not really into trap. Like, trap doesn't speak to me like that.
Yeah. I could tell you maybe producers. I could tell you good guys.
The producers as well. I mean, even to a certain extent, like even the producers, like, I mean, aside from the most popular, the Mustards and the Metro Boomings and all of them, like
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I can't really name a lot of other trap producers.
But these are the guys these are the guys
who name more artists, definitely.
But these are the guys that are not being named. That's the thing. It's like you just said now, Metro Booming.
Yeah.
Is Weezy out of here? You know what I mean? Those are the guys that make these rappers sound good. They make them sound good.
But I mean, Metro's got his own brand, like
he's fire. Man.
He's about as big as any other artist, to be honest.
He's fire though.
Everybody knows, Metro Booming, like he's the trap king, like he was the guy that was like making the serious hits.
I enjoyed his I honestly enjoyed his funny enough, he's the one he produced with 21 Savage. And what's his name? Offset. I think Offset was in some of the tracks as well.
Is it?
Yeah, but it was he'd feature a few tracks, and then obviously 21 Savage would I forgot the name. What's the name of the album? Is
it the one with the dog and the
It's here on my phone. Yeah. It's here on my phone. Let me give you the name, because I'm not gonna be content if I don't give you the name of this guy, of this album. Where's it at?
Because I think I remember the cover. It's
the one with the dog.
Yeah, it's the one with the dog. Right?
Yeah. Without Warning.
Yes, without
warning. So that for me, I enjoyed that. I enjoy that album. It's my gym music, bro. So you know what I mean.
Yeah, trap music is actually dope for gym because it's very hype.
It's very hype.
Yeah,
it's very hype.
It's very very hype.
You get different entities. You get the woo rap. You get all. It's just there's so much music, and that's the thing. There's too much music to complain about at the end of the day. There's too much.
Well, the thing is that's the thing. That's also why I say you have a choice, because even though like trap is in the forefront, the mumble rappers and the trappers are the ones that are like getting the most shine. There's still dope hip hop that gets released all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, it's just not. You just gotta go out there and search for it, because it's not gonna be shoved in your face as much.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of dope shit. Like I even have like giving shout outs to like guys like Griselda and what they've done. Because they've kept it like raw. Like they've kept it mad raw, and they are like popping.
Yeah.
And then you look at other crews like Run the Jewels. Which consists of two dope lyricists in Killer Mike and LP, LP from Company Flow. You know what I mean? And like I also love what they've done, because they've modernized their sound to make it appeal to even the kids today, but then they still rap their asses off.
They go
So there's a lot of dope stuff that's out there, man. You just gotta search for it more, because you can't rely on like television and radio to tell you what's hot.
Not anymore.
You've got to go out there. So there's pros and there's cons to the evolution.
Absolutely.
But even within the elements, each evolution has had its pro and cons. But DJing for me right now is it's like I feel like it's cool to see that the culture is breeding like superstars. You know what I mean? I love that. Like, that's one thing.
Yeah.
That I thought I'd see it, but I never thought it would be that big.
Yeah,
I'm
with you.
And that's just DJ culture in general, not specifically talking about hip hop. But with hip hop, The one thing that I wished, and I think this is also our fault as the the generation that came before, was that we didn't really create a platform that would allow the next generation to want to learn more of the craft of DJing as opposed to just
Mm.
the what is it, like I could say the most easiest part about it, which is obviously the mixing and mixing music. Because like I just told you now, I picked up mixing in 3 hours, so it shows you that it's not really a difficult skill to learn. Learning how to mix music is not a difficult skill. The skill is obviously in the selection when
Mm.
you're
Yeah,
mixing
your
music.
playlist, yeah.
It's your playlist. That's where a bit of the skill comes in, and then obviously your identity as a DJ, your skill set as a DJ as well. And that is the thing that I think has now been lost. We don't get a lot of DJs that are like their own. Like a lot of the times, and I've had this conversation with so many people, DJs and just people that club. Like they say, like a lot of people are like, yo, these days sometimes we can't even tell when the next DJ is playing. You know what I mean? Because everyone sounds the same. Like everybody, like more specifically is from like the new generation, because DJing has now become the in thing. DJing is the new rapping. You know what I'm saying? DJ is the new rapping because it's one of the quickest ways to gain, to gain popularity. You can make a bit of money if especially if you get into the right circles and start getting booked a lot. Um, but there seems to be like a neglect for the art form. Now, I'm not saying that every DJ should learn how to to be a turntablist, or to have some sort of skill set, because some people don't have that discipline, because
Yeah.
it's a discipline. Like
Okay.
learning turntablism is like learning any other musical instrument. It's like learning
Sure.
how to play the guitar, how to play the piano,
Piano. Yeah,
because
true.
there's notes, there's techniques that you need to
Mm,
learn when it comes
mm.
to this.
It's not just about
So
pressing a button.
yeah, exactly. So that, like, because I don't see a lot of that in a lot of kids sets these days, their identity is lost, and they don't really show who they are as DJs. You know what I mean? I don't think a lot of DJs understand that, especially from this generation. I don't think they understand that being original is what actually makes you great.
Can I put a spanner in the works here?
Yeah.
Does this explain why? And it might seem as a controversial question. I might get pushback for this, which is okay. Does this explain? Does this explain why a lot of hip hop artists or DJs are transitioning into Amapiano? And this is not to grind them. Look, it's your choice as an artist. If you want to go that route where you're singing secular music and go to R&B and gospel, that's your thing. I'm just saying in general, is that why? Is that one of the reasons as to why a lot of the hip hop artists are going towards the piano scene or capitalizing it? Because remember, it's something you got to capitalize where you can.
Yeah,
It's
of
about
course.
making bread.
Definitely.
At the end of the day, you can't hate on that. So is that maybe a constituent to it based on what you've mentioned in terms of making it a convenient thing? Because I'm looking at it from a outside in, as a, maybe saying I'm an artist or whatever, and I'm seeing that whatever I'm doing in terms of the craft, it's there, but it's gonna take me X amount of time to get to my goal. As opposed to if I jump into this bandwagon and craze, where there's, it might not sound original, but it sounds different. I'm not saying that I'm a piano artist or DJs are not different. Please don't get me wrong here or misquote me. I'm just saying is that they're jumping into something that's already there.
Yeah.
It's just they're putting their 2 cents in. You
Yeah,
know what
yeah,
I'm
no doubt,
saying?
yeah.
So does that also play a part, perhaps?
Um, I don't think so, to be honest.
Okay.
I don't think I don't know if I'm getting you right though.
Okay.
Because are you referring to it from like a skill set that maybe these artists don't have the skill to do it in hip hop, so they go over, or
Oh yeah, I mean, not even look. They do have the skill sets. It's just that they're not making it as they're not making getting to their personal goal as a
as a hip hop
hip hop
artist.
artist.
Yeah,
So they're
okay.
transitioning using their same skill sets, but applying it into I'm a piano scene, for example. For lack of-
Okay. Yeah, now I see.
Yeah.
Maybe
and
maybe
ma-
I
and
think
ca-
there is a bit of truth to it. There definitely is.
Yeah.
I mean, from what I've come across, like with Reason, who's now sees where Alakine,
Yeah.
and does Amapiano. Well,
Yeah.
he actually calls it rap piano. That's what he calls it. Yeah,
Is that a thing now?
it might become a thing. I don't know. We'll see. You can rewind this back in like a few months if it does.
I guess all words are made up anyway.
You know,
but
yeah. So
yeah,
so that's his thing. You know, the rap piano thing.
Yeah.
And he obviously did it because he needed to pay bills. You know what I'm saying?
Of course.
He needed to take care of his.
course.
So like the pressure's on him. He needs to take care of his. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And at the same time, I'm not going to judge him for doing that. You know, because
That's my thing as well. Yeah.
he's doing it for what's best for him. And he's a musician at the end of the day. You know, yes, he's a rap artist and he started in hip hop and everybody knows Reason. You know, you're always a backpack and lyricist rapper. You know. But he's a musician at the end of the day, and I feel that he should be allowed to express himself the way he wants to. So any artist, regardless of what they're doing, you know, if you're a rapper and you want to sing and you can sing, you know what I mean? Then why not? You know, Drake, I mean, I still don't think Drake can really sing, but because he's got a good enough voice, he does it.
He harmonizes.
You know, he harmonizes, he does it. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that's my thing. If you consider yourself a musician, then why not mess with other genres? Why not try to excel in those genres as well?
Absolutely.
And the thing is also, Amapiano is South African.
True.
Do you know what I mean? My piano music is South African, so I don't see a problem if a rapper decides that he wants to go and do Amapiano. Actually, I love the fact that a rapper wants to do Amapiano because it's South African, and the world is paying attention right now.
Facts.
You know, Amapiano has opened the floodgates to South Africa. People are watching now. They're like, yo, what's going on here? You know, this music style it's different. It bangs in the clubs, you know.
The whole world's playing this,
The whole world is playing it.
Yeah.
So, yo, man, if that's an opportunity for a Casper or a Reason, whoever, or a Costa Teacher, whoever wants to use Amapiano to get out to the world, then let them do it. They're musicians. We shouldn't have shit to complain about. We don't pay their bills for us to be talking about that shit. You know?
Real.
We don't
For
do
real.
that. Like Twitter is like one of the places that irritates me the most because I always see shit like that. Like, you know, Reason mustn't come back to hip hop, man. Like Reason did so much
Pay his
shit.
bills and then he'll come
But
back.
not even that, man. Not even that. Reason did so much for SA hip hop.
Yeah.
People will try and say no, he did it. He did. You know, Reason made the lyricist cool again. You know what I mean? Like when Toomey and them were doing it, it fell off a bit. Reason came back and he made that shit cool. You know what I mean? He made it cool again. You know, it's like for lyricists, not just like rappers, but lyricists to be able to get some awards again, you know? Because when you look at the age of like Toomey and them, you know what I mean? There were so many lyricists and they were the ones that were in control of shit, you know, Proverb, Toomey and the Volume, Zabs, you know what I mean? There was a lot of Pro Kid, there were a lot of dope lyricists. And then the more artist version of the rappers started coming out, who are also dope rappers, but they're not lyricists per se. You know, like Keenan's a dope rapper, AK is a dope rapper. I don't really consider him like a you know, pinpoint lyricist. I don't put him on the level of like a Stogie T, you know, from a lyrical point standpoint. But as a rap artist, Keenan's like is possibly maybe our best rap artist. I could be wrong, but he's one
of our best.
Yeah, he's one of our best. You know. You know, and the same thing with Casper. You know, Casper is not the best lyrical rapper. He might disagree with me. You know.
What do you put Nasty C? I mean, because he's got some bars though.
Yeah. No, Nasty's also like a very dope lyricist. And I could somewhat put him in that what's it, the box as well of lyricists.
Yeah.
I don't really put him in like a Proverb, Stogie, you know, like level. I don't put him there, but he's definitely in that. He's definitely within the room, you know. He's definitely in that room.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the rap artists then came in, you know, and they were the ones who now started making like the big hits, the mega hits. You know, they started taking hip hop to the next level.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? So for any one of these guys to want to go over into a music type that is South African, because people always complain about like how a lot of rappers in South Africa are Americanized, and a lot of them are. I mean, Nasty C is one of the most perfect examples.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. No, there's nothing wrong with it.
Okay, whoever says it's like.
But for the fact that people like Nasty C and and AK and everybody made fans of of their music and the stuff that they were producing, and you guys had no problem with them sounding American. So why is it now when these niggas are like, yo, we want to go over and do the South African sound, but we want to take our skill set with it as well and combine the
evolve.
two?
Yeah, I mean, evolve the thing. Yeah.
Now it's a problem. It's like, nah, that's bullshit, man. Like, let artists be artists.
It's like as fans, we have this tendency of feeling betrayed. There's a sense because by the code of popular opinion, there's a betrayal going behind it.
We don't owe these niggas nothing.
Yeah.
We don't owe them nothing. We don't pay their bills. We're not in their lives. We enjoy the music.
So what would you say? Now we did touch on mastering the craft because, jeez, man, I was amazed. I never knew that portion of you.
It's a very long story, but there's much more.
What would you tell young people who want to start and go into this, especially one particular hip hop DJ? Because we're talking about hip hop DJing here. Yeah, I understand. Yes, no disrespect to the house DJs. There are DJs in that pool, but for today on my show, we're talking about hip hop DJ. So, like, in terms of what would you give advice to in terms of young people, in terms of hip hop DJing? What would you say? What advice would you give them if they want to go into it?
The first thing I would say is obviously get equipment. Get your own equipment.
For real.
Controllers are like hella cheap these days. Well, not hella cheap, but they're cheap enough.
They're convenient to buy.
They're cheap enough for you to afford it. So get your own equipment, because having your own equipment and being able to come back home and practice is one of the luxuries that we didn't have. And if I had that luxury when I started DJing, if I had my own equipment at home, I could only imagine how much better I would have been right now. So buy your own equipment. That's the first thing I would say. And then music knowledge, man. Music knowledge, music DJing etiquette as well. Learn how to curate your music properly, because a lot of these new skill DJs, they don't know how to do that. They don't know how to play opening sets, because you give a nigga a 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. opening slot, and he's playing Drake and Future, all the bangers are all of a sudden being played, and there's nobody in the club, which is why people hear the same song being repeated over and over again in the club.
And sorry to cut you there. Yeah. And so you brought up a memory in my head. There was a joint I used to me and Stay used to actually run around to. It was called Just Chilling Sessions in Pretoria.
Okay.
Hip hop. They played hip hop, the house later on, and they play nice hip hop sets like early. So if you get there at around, let's say 3 o'clock, because this joint runs through all the way till about midnight, until over 1 o'clock in the morning. But then if you go to like a 3 o'clock set and these guys are DJing already, man, if you're one of those guys who had that opening set and people are enjoying and standing up to your stuff, know you've done something right, because it's not likely, because people are on chill mode.
But that's the art of an opening set. An opening set is for you to start creating the vibe. And it's not even about like, because even the next DJ after you is still going to be doing that.
Absolutely.
They're still going to be, building up shit. So you've just got to make the transition for the next homie.
Yeah.
Much easier.
Yeah.
So that when he comes in, he knows, okay, this is where I can carry on from.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But now, with the way DJs are, a lot of them just come in and they just bump bangers, bro. Bangers, like, and it's weird because like there's no etiquette, behind it. Like, they don't care that it's 10 p.m. There's still DJs that are going to come in for the main sets, which are 12, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, that are going to want to play these same songs, you know what I mean? But you're already playing them now, which is like what I said, why you hear a lot of songs being repeated, because a lot of DJs don't have etiquette these days. I can recall once in the past, I can't remember, it might have been Sumo, I'm not sure, but I went to one of these spots like a few years ago, and I remember the DJ finishing had played, I think it was a Drake song, and the very, very next song, the first song that the next DJ played was the same song.
Oh my God, I've heard that before. I've heard that happen. I've heard that happen.
Same song.
I've heard that happen numerous times.
That's also because niggas come with plan sets. Now, there's nothing wrong with plan sets.
Okay.
Plan sets can work when you know the environment.
Yeah.
Like myself, I'll do a plan set when I'm doing like a festival gig.
Okay.
Because I also know that the lineup is filled with different styles of DJs.
For real.
You know what I mean? And if you know that you might be one of like 2 or 3 hip hop DJs playing on that stage, then you can plan a set.
Okay.
You know, or sometimes what I'll do is I'll do it like I'll plan a set, but I'll also kind of like feel the vibe when I'm there.
Right.
So I'll go into my plan set, maybe take a section of it and then use it in this set, and then I might play a few other songs that probably weren't in there, depending on how I'm reading the crowd.
Yeah.
You know, because if I can see that the crowd likes this type of music and maybe I don't have some of that music in my plan set, then I'll revert to just playing that type of stuff, which I think will work, and then I'll bring another section in from there and I'll just plug it in there. And those sections are normally my most technical sections when I'm doing like a mashup or I'm doing a bit of cuts or something, you know, and then I'll bring that because that was in the plan set, and then, you know, I'll just improvise as I go.
Right.
So the whole thing of learning how to play accordingly and learning your music, and if you're gonna plan sets, learn how to actually plan sets, based around where you're playing.
Okay.
You know what I mean? If you're playing at a sumo and you want to plan a set, then just make sure that you have enough music to play of the banging shit that you need to play, that should you get to the club and the DJ before you is playing some of that shit, he's not going to play everything. He's not going to play all the music. I mean, unless he's just being an asshole and he's playing like 10 seconds of each record.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
I hate those stingy DJs,
you know,
man.
but you gotta have enough music for you not to have shit to play.
I get you.
Because I've heard DJs complain like, oh, this guy's playing like all the music I want to play. I'm like, what are you talking about, bro? Like, there's so much music. How can you get angry? Because I mean, yeah, he might be being an asshole because he's playing everything, you know. But at the same time, it's like, yo, like, there's enough music, bro. Like, even if you have to dig back. People like throwbacks. You know,
true.
your whole set doesn't have to be it.
That's so true.
But you can bring in a fucking what's this, like a niggas in Paris. You know what I mean? You don't have to keep it like now. You know, it doesn't have to be present.
It doesn't be present.
You can go back a few years because there's bangers a few years ago. You know what I mean? So
a lot of DJs do that on radio too.
Yeah, you know.
They
like,
play, yeah.
There's enough music, bro. You don't have to be worried because a nigga playing like all your shit. Like,
improvise.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, these are like the skill sets that I don't see happen when I'm not seeing happen a lot in the current crop of DJs.
Okay.
But I'm not saying that there aren't any. There are plenty of cats that have the etiquette.
Okay.
But they also learn over time. You know what I mean?
Right.
They learn over time. But yeah, I just like the etiquette, and then just the whole thing of really wanting to immerse yourself in the culture of DJing, because for me, man, the title DJ represents more than just what it means.
For sure.
Do you know what I mean? It represents more than just what it means. When you call yourself a DJ, you're not just a nigga that sits in a booth and plays music. You know, you're someone that controls vibes, you control emotions. You know, you're someone that breaks new music, which you hear from time to time. But I hardly ever hear DJs break artists that aren't popular, but the music's dope.
Wow.
You know what I mean? I could be wrong. I mean, I'm not really in the clubs that much these days, but when I was in the clubs, you know, a few years ago, like, I would hardly hear like dope shit that wasn't popular. Like, before Playboy Cardi blew up, I knew who Playboy Cardi was before he blew up, and he had dope shit. And I even remember playing in one of these spots with like the kids were, and I bumped some Playboy Cardi. Nobody knew who he was, and they didn't really fuck with the shit. You know, some people were like, yo, this is dope, but a lot of people were like, yo, we don't know this. So that's also what like club culture has become, and in turn DJing culture has been affected by it.
Right.
Because now when like DJs aren't really receptive to breaking new records in the club. They'd rather break a song that just came out that might not be popular, but everyone knows is out. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, like Kanye's Easy, you know?
Yeah.
People know that this record exists, and it's starting to get played in the clubs. You know what I'm saying? But if Easy was a record done by an artist that nobody knew, and you played it in the club, people will be like, yeah, you know, like, no, nice beat, you know, who that?
Who this?
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the thing. So that was what drove DJing in like the 90s, the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, and in 2000s actually. The first decade of the new millennium.
Okay.
Was that culture was still very relevant, breaking new records, you know. But now it's not so much. We actually have to create events to do that now, because the clubs aren't doing it anymore. So now And that's also another thing that I liked is that now DJs, because the game has expanded so much, and like there's so many DJs now, a lot of new like niche events are starting to come out that cater for a certain audience now.
Yeah.
Now you don't have to go to Sumo if you want to hear the hot shit. There's other places you can go
You go
to,
and
and
hear the
they're
hot
not
shit.
even
That's
clubs.
true.
They're not even clubs, you know.
It's true.
People are creating their own spots now, their own concepts. You know, you
Yeah.
look at guys like Akio. You know, Akio has Strictly Soul, and that's solely R&B and soul. You know, and that caters to a market. You know what I mean? That caters to a market. So that's the thing that is kind of like that I liked about how DJing has evolved, is that
Right.
now people have started actually creating
Creating their own
their own
platforms.
platforms,
That's
and that's
fantastic.
dope. I love that. And then obviously the whole music thing, you know, DJs now making their own songs and their own music and stuff. One thing though, I would love to say to the youth, please, if you're gonna start making your own music, at least learn to make your own production. At least learn how to make beats.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like this whole thing of buying a beat and then saying, you know, it's your song and all you did was just shout your name on it. It's cool, but as a DJ, I feel every DJ should know how to make beats.
Facts.
You know, you deal with beats every day. Come on.
We grew up on
You know what I mean?
We grew up on
Come
Fruit
on.
Loops,
Like
bruh.
one of the dopest examples I can give is Slick.
Yeah.
DJ Slick. Slick worked with Tweezy. Tweezy was the one making all the beats in the beginning.
Okay.
Now Slick makes his own beats. For DJs to, you know, obviously, you know, start making their own music.
Okay.
Like how Slick did, and you know, I see a lot of DJs are getting into production, and that's a good thing. Like I really want to see that happen more, you know, because there's a lot of DJs that make music, man, and I feel like a lot of them have the potential to be like dope record producers.
Sure.
You know, like I think Switch, he makes a lot of music, you know, and he works with a lot of like, you know, upcoming unknown artists. You know, if like that's one dude I gotta give my flowers to, or you know, give him his flowers, because he's really like creating a platform that's putting on like unknown rappers, and because he has his own platform. I don't know if you saw, he just created this thing called Switch Put Me On.
No,
Well, he didn't just
I-
create it, he's been doing it, but it was
Right.
on IG, but now it's like a proper show on YouTube.
Okay.
And he literally gives like up and coming artists like a platform.
Oh snap!
You know what I
Alright.
mean? So even like him, like he's, you know, he like I would love, and he actually he called me like, I think maybe like a month or two ago. He was telling me that like, hey, he really wants to actually start getting into beat making properly, and I was like,
Right.
dude, do it, because you're making music already, you know. It's
Yeah.
like the shit you like the thing is consistency, you know, like you're not
Yeah.
going to be making bangers right now, you know, but if you just keep going at
Going
it,
at it.
you're going to come across a few that are going to be good enough, and then you can release those on like a mixtape as like a track 3 or some shit, and that's your production, you know. And then you'll see eventually you'll even have rappers being like, oh shit, you make beats, yo, swing me some shit.
Swing me
And
some
you start
stuff.
swinging rappers beats, you know.
Yeah.
Like I make beats and stuff as well, but I'm like my whole career, especially with when it was music related, has always been executive producing. You know, because I have executive producing credits on a few albums, on Reason's albums, on Kid X's album.
Okay.
You know, I've got well, sorry, not his album, but the 3/4 Pace mixtape.
Okay.
But it was an album because it got nominated for a Summer Award, so it actually was an album.
Right.
You know, I've got, you know, a few others as well. You know,
Right.
even A Reese's, before he joined Ambitious Records, he was at Raw X Records, and I used to kind of like intern at Raw X Records.
Okay.
So even on there, I've got executive producing credits as well.
Right.
And I've also made beats, but a lot of the beats I made were more directed for like live performances.
Yeah.
And through that, because I started doing that, I made my own band,
Right.
which is called Sampling Through the Ages, STTA. It was myself, another DJ, homie of mine, DJ Reiko, a drum musician who goes by the name of J Star, also known as Pastor Abdul, and then another homie of ours who's also a producer, Jonique. So the four of us made this thing called Sampling Through the Ages, and basically what it was a DJ set being performed live.
Right.
But it had elements of like live mashups, live remixes, beats, and then a lot of freestyling at times. Like we just improv. Like
Right.
you know, J Star would start a drum pattern. Reiko would like have a sample like on the deck. He'd scratch up a sample. I'd either also add some cuts. So I had my MPC, so then I'd look for like samples I can chop up that I can like like
just play around
rearrange.
with it all
And
day.
then Jodique also had he had keys and he had a drum machine, and he'd also add to that. So he'd add like melodies, bass lines, or whatever he could chop up as well. So that was
Yeah.
what the crew was called. The band it was a dope venture. We did it for about 3 years. Um, and we accomplished a lot in those 3 years. I won't even lie. Like there's bands that have been together longer than us that haven't even played on stages like Cape Town Jazz Fest
Okay.
or Standard Bank Jazz. What is that? What is that thing called? Is it Standard Bank Jazz Joy of Jazz? We were on those stages
Okay.
because of what we were doing because it was so different.
Nice.
But yeah, it unfortunately disbanded in 2018. I think was when when everybody kind of went their separate ways.
Yeah.
But like these are the type of things I want to see, and DJs getting more involved in, and that's a skill set that needs to be learned.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So this whole thing of just becoming a DJ because you can mix music and people like the music you play, they're gonna like the music you play because you're playing the music they know. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you might mix it well and stuff like that, but where's the identity? What can you show me aside from the fact that you can just play music? Like guys, like for a dope example is Chaotic.
Okay.
Like DJ Chaotic, dope DJ. Like selection wise, can mix really well, does a lot of mashups.
Yeah.
But what I like about Chaotic is he shows creativity.
Yeah.
He's not a technical DJ, but he shows you that he has a respect and an urge to want to learn more than what he knows. You know what I mean, with the art form. So he actually shows you that I can do some shit as well. I'm not just up here pressing play and mixing songs. I'm giving you entertainment value. You know what I mean? And like with DJing, we have this thing that we call edutain, which is like to educate and entertain.
Edutainment.
I always do that a lot. Like I always take like music that you either won't know or even samples from like popular songs. And I mess around with that shit to kind of like give you almost like to entertain you and then educate you at the same time, where you're like, oh, that's dope what he's doing. Oh shit, I know this song though. Oh, that's actually the original sample.
You see what I'm saying?
That's how they did
that's
it.
how you go in. Yeah, I hear you.
So that's what I want to see more of with the DJing, like how the DJing generation is. But obviously the problem is, and this is one of the cons that I have about technology, is that it made it so accessible. It made DJing so accessible to the average person. It made DJing so accessible to the average person to where now we have celebrity DJs, influencer DJs. Like, what the fuck is that shit? I mean, a celebrity DJ I understand because I know there are... So, like, DJing is a hobby. It's also a hobby. As much as it can be a way of living, you can create... Good job, can be work for you. You make money off of it, but it's also a hobby. So I understand like celebrities that get into it, but the whole thing I don't understand is when you've never been a DJ in your life, you never had any intentions of trying to be one, but all of a sudden now, because some dumb mother came up to me and was like, yo, Fonzo, bro, you should actually DJ because like you're popular and you have all these people that follow you. You should be a DJ. And now all of a sudden celebrity DJs become a thing. And then it's the same thing with influencers. Someone was in their ear and was like, oh, you should be a DJ because you got so many followers. And now you get influencer DJs. So that's the only shit. And that shit waters down the culture.
Oh. Because you got a nice thong and you show the goodies, you could be a DJ too. I'm not gonna mention names and point fingers. I'm just
I'm not gonna touch on that.
No, we're not gonna touch on that one.
I'm not gonna touch on that.
You know what I mean? I'm just saying. Hey, no hate. I'm just saying.
It's
everyone's got a gimmick.
Yeah, it's a gimmick. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's what the game is right now. Like, you gotta have a gimmick to a certain extent now.
True.
True. But my thing is like what I was saying with the whole title of a DJ, because it represents so much. Like there's so much history that comes with when you put DJ in front of your name.
Sure.
And when you tell me you're a DJ, I'm in my mind I'm already thinking like, okay, cool. What kind of DJ are you? Are you a party DJ? Are you a turntablist? Are you a celebrity influencer DJ? What are you?
You gotta dissect
because now it's so broad. You have to break it down because You can't tell me you're a DJ, and now when I start asking you about like, yo, are you technical? Can you scratch and shit? And you tell me, nah, you almost like kind of dismiss it.
Yeah,
Like
that ain't my
like that ain't my
thing.
thing. It's like, no,
Yeah,
nigga, it
yeah,
should
yeah.
be your thing because you putting DJ in front of your name,
Facts.
and that comes with the platform. You know what I mean? It's like you can't you can't want to learn to drive a car, right? Learn how to drive a car, and all you want to do is learn automatic. You don't want to learn manual because you don't feel it's needed. Do you know what I mean? Like that's kind of like the best way I can actually put it down. You
Yeah.
know, it's like, yo, that's the best reference that I can make is that, yo, if you're gonna call yourself a DJ, then actually be a DJ. You know, learn about the craft. You know, learn how to be a better DJ because what that does is it separates you from everybody else.
Absolutely.
Because everybody else can now they actually know, okay, this is this guy's sound. This is how he plays. Like I can tell when a DJ that is skilled, a DJ that is seasoned, when he starts playing compared to the DJs that are out right now. I can tell that this nigga been DJing. You know, he
Sure.
knows the craft. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because you see you hear the difference.
You
know?
hear it,
You hear the
yeah.
difference, and you're just like, oh well, okay. At least there's somebody that takes pride in the art form
like a
and in the
chef.
craft. Yeah.
Like a chef. I mean, chefs don't necessarily always make the cuisines that they learned, or they create stuff within that. Like they even create stuff as something as small as a hot sauce.
Yeah.
They say this goes right with the cuisine, but if you had this hot sauce that I've just created here, you'll find this recipe he made on his own. It's evolving. You're not just giving what the universe is giving you in terms of beats and music. You're evolving and creating your own too. So it gives you a floor to become creative. That's why it's called being a creative.
Yeah, exactly.
The creatives evolve. You
Exactly.
get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So that's just my thing. Like
I'm with you.
I would like any kid coming up now, I would strongly suggest to just learn as much as maybe you're capable of learning. Maybe that's it, because some people just aren't born with the talent to be turntablists, or to be technical DJs. Some people just don't care because all they want is just to play music.
They just want to play music and share.
They just want to play music, and I understand that. But then the thing is, if you're gonna, if that's your ammo into what you wanna be as a DJ, then cool. But now you can't go around calling yourself a DJ then. You know what I'm saying? Like that's my thing. Like just say you play music then.
Yeah, facts.
Because you're not a DJ.
You're not a DJ.
Not because you can mix don't make you a DJ, man. There's so much more that goes into this shit. Like
I'm with you.
there's way more that goes into it that actually makes a person a DJ.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mixing is just that's just the entry. Because every DJ needs to learn to mix. There's no DJ in the world that's making money or popular that doesn't know how to mix, because it's the entry level thing. But now when you start bringing other DJs into the picture, then it becomes a different story. Now you're just like, oh shit, so there's another level to this shit. But the thing is, that level comes with a discipline. It comes with time, and that's unfortunately what a lot of people don't see. They don't see that, and when they do realize that, oh shit, this thing is real, but why must I learn to scratch? I don't need to learn to scratch. I'm already making money playing music. I don't need to learn to scratch. Why? It doesn't do anything for me now. But what you don't realize is that because you're not developing your skill set within the craft, you're gonna stay at one point for the rest of your career.
You're gonna be very stagnant.
Yeah, you're gonna be very stagnant. Okay. And then when you start, if you eventually get the opportunity to play outside of the country and go to like Europe or the States, and then you're gonna come into like places where the culture of DJing is still like at a premium. Like there's more technically gifted DJs in like Europe or even in the States than there are normal DJs that play. But here it's vice versa. Yeah, we have more playing DJs and we have technical DJs.
Yeah.
But in the States, there's more technical DJs because they take that shit serious. They have a strict like they're strictly like disciplined when it comes to this, and we just don't have that because we're about vibes.
Yeah.
South Africa is just about vibes. That's our thing. We're just about vibes. So I'll just say yeah. Buy your own equipment.
Okay.
Also business ethic. I would suggest any kid that wants to become a DJ, take a business course. learn about the business of music as well, because that will also help you. It'll help you, formalize and create your own brand. It will
Mm-hmm.
help you manage that brand, learn how to make money off of that brand. When you
Okay.
start doing events, when you start doing your own music, you
Mm-hmm.
know how to handle that. So go for a business course.
Okay.
Doesn't even have to be the best one. Just learn how shit works.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just learn how shit works. And then, yeah, try to take an interest in the craft. Like, you don't have to be the best scratch DJ in the world, but just learn some shit. Learn some shit that's gonna make you different. That's gonna set you apart from the next DJ. Because if the DJ before you is playing the same music that you're gonna play, the same way you're gonna play it, then what's the use? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm with you there. Being creative in this sector does not take away the fact that you need to also be financially literate.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
definitely,
yeah. So
definitely.
hence the business course,
No,
because
you have
handle
to.
your
Yeah,
money. You
you
gotta
have to.
be
Yeah, I mean,
handle your
especially
bread.
if you become a popular DJ,
Woo.
then you need to.
Yeah,
need
you
to know
gotta
that.
you gotta be on your
You
P's
need to
and
know
Q's.
that. And
Yeah.
wait, what was the other thing that I actually wanted to mention? Oh yeah, and then just DJ etiquette, man.
Yeah, DJ etiquette.
DJ
Yeah, you did
etiquette.
say
Like,
yeah, you did say DJ etiquette.
learn to know your music. Learn, master like different styles of music. Being an
Yeah.
open format DJ, which is what I am now. I used to be a hip hop DJ, but now I'm an open format DJ, and it's dope, man, because there's so much music in the world, and people love this music. This is also why I like the fact that DJs are now creating their own spaces and their own events to
Yeah.
cater for these types of people.
Yeah.
A lot of the gigs that I've been involved in, I've created, and that I play at, are these type of events where it's not about it's not about being seen or or being in a club to pop bottles or anything. You're literally going for the music.
For
And
the
I'm
music.
not saying that people don't go to the club for the music. They do go to listen to music, but it's also it's a status thing. You
Yeah.
want to be seen. You want people to see you in the club. You want to be the guy popping bottles. You want to get the girls. The girls are also there. They're doing their own thing. They're popping bottles. They're also trying to be seen. So it's become like a
It is
movie set.
It is. Yeah. It's
You
like
know,
a yeah.
it's
yeah.
like movie sets, and you get your 15 minutes when everyone has their attention on you because you got all the bottles at your spot, and the music falls second to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the
Because
music
that's
is
kind of
just,
what has happened.
It creates an ambiance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, it's creating
But
an
now,
ambiance.
when you get these type of spots where it's just about the vibes, it's just about the music,
I miss
then you're
those.
really enjoying
I
yourself.
miss those, man.
There's plenty of them around, bro. There's
Yeah.
plenty of them around.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the things. Those are the things I would say.
Quick one before we wrap up.
I will.
Top 5 DJs in
Oh
a
yeah, it's the
nutshell.
top 5 DJs.
Top 5 DJs in a nutshell. Just off the rip.
But now the thing is it international? Is it
Wait,
local?
it doesn't matter. So, ones that have impacted you and the ones that
Okay,
you
the
root for.
ones. I mean, I obviously I can say that I can give you the top 5 for the DJs that impacted me, which was Bionic DJ Plays,
Right.
DJ Qbert from the States. I would say Rock Raider of the Executioners from New York, and DJ Jazzy Jeff.
Whew.
Yeah, DJ Jazzy Jeff.
There we go. That's
Definitely.
right.
Those are like the
That's
most
right.
impactful.
He was in
for
my
me.
head, man. He
Yeah,
was
the
in my
most
head.
impactful
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
I have to say locally, I'd have to break it into different groups. I'd have to say, from a turntablist aspect, my favorite DJs are Ryan the DJ, Shameless,
Okay.
Hammer, Kodaks, and who else would I say? DJ Sush, yeah. DJ. And then from a party aspect of like DJs that play good party music and know how to rock crowds.
Okay.
Milkshake, Speedster, PH, Chaotic, Venom.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Alright,
And
cool.
those that's my top 5.
Alright,
Sorry to
nice.
anybody who didn't make it, they might have thought. Actually, wait, I have to mention one more. I have to mention one more.
Okay.
Um,
Your what you call it? What you call it? Honorable mention.
Well, not even honorable mention. It's just
Yeah.
another class of DJ, like another category of DJ, and that's music selection.
Okay.
Because there's DJs that have excellent music selection, and
Okay.
that is Akio, DJ Ken Zero,
Shout out to Ken Zero.
Chus Timber, Jabberjaw. Who else would I say has excellent music taste? It's got to be somebody else. Who else did I say? Damn, can't really think of a fifth one. Maybe the music. Yeah. Actually, you know what? Now I know who it was. It was VG.
Okay.
As
DJ Vigilante.
Yeah, Vigilante.
Nice
His music knowledge and the way he orchestrates his sets, fucking brilliant.
Yeah,
Yeah, so those are like those are my
focused.
top 5 in all of those. I can't choose like a top 5 all rounder.
Yeah.
Because I have top 5s for all types of DJs,
Yeah,
you know.
and
these they all matter, you know. They all
Yeah.
matter. The turntablists matter, the party DJs matter, the music
Right.
selection matters as well.
Right.
So those would be my top 5 for all the.
Nice one. So in a nutshell, man, where can people catch you at? Where can we catch you if you have any sets, if you have any gigs going on? Where can we catch you at? Where can you get us the information right there?
Well, P_KU TTAH on Twitter, Instagram, and on Facebook. That's P Kuttah. I actually have a new venture that I've just started with 2 DJ homies of mine.
Okay.
DJs Jabba Joe and Hammer.
Okay.
It's called Open Format, and we are running events weekly, Friday and Saturday at Baba Black Sheep in Parkwood, close to Rosebank.
I see that one, yeah. I see
Yeah,
that one.
and we also just started a Sunday called Easy Does It at Ruby Soho in Melville.
Okay.
And very soon we will have a Thursday night
Okay.
coming up, so keep your eyes out for that.
Right.
And yeah, it's just around the country, man. Wherever I get booked, you know, wherever people want me to come and do what I do, that's where you'll find me.
All right, man. Sure. No, Pete, thank you so much.
No,
Bro.
thanks for having me here.
No, it's a
for the
pleasure.
convo.
A pleasure.
It's always nice to just go in detail about these things and just
Definitely.
talk about it.
And definitely I will, start putting a shot of having you regularly here.
We can definitely do that.
That's what it is, guys. Guys, thank you for joining me on another episode of Big Bear Online. Guys, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, guys. Shout out to my boy P Kuttah here for coming through for the session. And yeah, guys, without further ado, we are ending it here. Until another episode, I will see you. Peace. Woo!